All right, episode one of the Cam and Joe podcast. How are you, Mr. Cameron?
You.
I'm doing good. So, a little background: we met through work and have just continued to be friends and kind of sharing similar interests. What's Maples? I'm kind of curious. What's the background on that and your last name?
I think it's English, but I'm not 100% if that's exactly right or not. So,
I did one of those ancestry things, and I thought I was Irish, and I'm actually English. And like, you can go and you'll see like how far back it goes, and there were like people like on the like not on the Mayflower, but like that era, like coming over. It was kind of interesting, like seeing pictures of these like old like human beings that I'm related to.
oh, that's sick.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah. I think we can always edit this, but I'm wondering, should we do any sort of like intro or like fluff, or should we just explain, talk about ourselves, or should we just jump right into the topic?
Whatever you want to do. I think it's good to have a little bit at a time. Give
Little,
people some background.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know what was like the genesis of this podcast. Do you think?
You mean like what's our idea to get us started, or what kind of topics we want to cover?
Yeah, it's like we just kind of like are like-minded people, and we were like interested in talking about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think we would just chat, like you know, hanging out, getting to know each other, like shooting the shit, and then all of a sudden, I think it was you. You were like, "Yo, we should start a podcast," and I was like, "Yes, we should." So here we are.
Here we are. I like the idea of just like, I don't know, putting it out there. And then I think what's cool is, this podcast gets buried after like the 100th episode, but like we can always look back and go, holy crap, look how much we've come since then. But
Hmm.
still probably talking about cool stuff.
Yes, definitely.
So what do you, let's just like jump into it, I guess. So
Okay.
kind of the main concept is, uh, yeah, if you wanted to kind of explain it, and I feel like you're better at that.
Okay. Yeah. So today we thought it'd be interesting to talk about energy and how that affects basically like every aspect of your life. So I think the main theme that we'll have on the podcast is kind of like self-help and business investment, that sort of thing. And we might get off topic on some other wild things.
Likely.
We'll try to keep it on topic. Um, so for the first one, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about how basically everything in the universe, including ourselves, like whether it's trees, plants, animals, like everything is made up of molecules, and they all have vibrational energy. So to give you an idea, like this is the definition from physics.org. The atoms in every molecule are always vibrating, and each bond between the atoms vibrates at a certain frequency and in a certain direction. So this is just kind of setting the base for what science is saying, right? So I think this part's going to be easy to follow, and as we go along, we're going to start getting into maybe some more kind of out there ideas. But just stick with us, and we'll see. We'll see if you start to think similarly or not. Um, this is from earthsky.org's definition. All things in our universe are constantly in motion, vibrating. Even objects that appear to be stationary are in fact vibrating, oscillating, resonating at various frequencies. And then some of these examples for this could be like, I don't know if you ever seen like an opera singer's holding a wine glass and they start singing, and as their pitch and tone, you can see the glass in slow motion actually starts like oscillating and vibrating until eventually it shatters. Well, in that instance, is what's happening is the molecules that are holding the glass in its shape are vibrating at a certain frequency, and when this singer hits that exact same frequency, it basically like that's what shatters the glass. And if
Dude,
you were,
that's so crazy,
it's
by
just
the
like
way.
if you have kidney stones and you have to go and do where they use like the ultrasound to basically like break up the bigger stones so you can pass them. It's the same form of energy, like waves is being put in through your body, and it's breaking up the stones. So like they're matching the same energy frequency that the stone is at that's holding it together. So if you start following along with this, it starts making you think like, wait a minute. So totally out there. Have you ever heard of stories that like people just spontaneously combust?
What?
Like people just be sleeping and all of a sudden they just burst into flames.
Does that actually happen?
I think there's been some documented cases, but I don't know. But it's like the crowd control devices that they'll have out there, like the LRAS that law enforcement will use, that'll send like radio waves and signals at people. Like that's
What does that
vibrational
do?
energy. So they do different things. Like it can affect your hearing. It can make you sick to your stomach to where you'll feel nauseous and like vomit. It's the same type of thing. Like it's hitting the energy frequencies that like your body's functioning at to cause those reactions.
That's crazy. I know they have the, I don't know this, but I read about that brown note actually being a real thing. Is that true?
I don't know if that's true or not, but based on the discussion we're having, it would perfectly make sense of it being the case because you can change the state of anything if you can match its vibrational energy, right? So it's just
Dude, the definition of this, hypothetical infrasonic frequency capable of causing fecal incontinence.
There you go. 100%.
That's crazy. I mean, that it says it's theoretical, but I don't know. I think I read somewhere that I know that there is, I don't know if it's the brown note that's real, but it's called LRAD.
Yep, that's the same thing I was just mentioning.
It like makes you really uncomfortable, like is what I'm told.
Yep.
Did you guys ever use stuff like that in the military?
They had some that were like mounted on Humvees, like large scale ones, but we didn't ever have to use anything like that, for like crowd control.
Oh, that's to like get like a whole group of people to be like uncomfortable enough to like stop what they're doing.
If you had a large crowd, it would be like almost like a satellite looking almost portion, like a half curved. And I think law enforcement, they have them similar to like mounted on vehicles for large ones, where they have the one that's more like on a pole that you can stand on a tripod on the ground.
I feel like I guess that's better than like just sort of shooting people. So that's good that there's like non-lethal measures.
So another example would be the link that I pasted in the chat. I don't know if you're able to pull that up and show that. That's the sand table one. And anyone can try this experiment. It's basically a speaker that they put like a poster board on top of. The speaker's laying flat, and then you pour sand or salt all over the top of it, and then they're playing frequencies at different levels.
Let me share this. This is badass.
And you'll see the reaction. You could skip probably like a minute or so into the video.
Window. Oh, dude, this is cool. Chrome tab. Oh my god, I could just straight up share a Chrome tab. Look at this shit, dude.
Nice.
How cool is this? And I'm controlling it right here. Can you hear the sound? Can you hear the sound playing through as well?
Yeah, it's a little loud though.
Oh, it's loud. It's fucking so loud.
Oh, there you go. That's good. So you can see as they change the hertz, it's basically snapping into geometric shapes.
Dude.
Because they're vibrating at different frequencies. And literally everything that's in any state, whether it's solid, liquid, or gas, is going by these properties.
So essentially does every frequency then by that, let me pause this, or turn the volume off. By that logic, we're just watching these like geometric shapes, does every frequency then have its own like geometric pattern?
That would be my guess based on what we're seeing in the video. So
that's a cool one.
And then, I mean, if you really start getting out there thinking of things, it's like, I mean, if you could match the vibrational energy of any object, like does that object not become solid anymore if you're at the same level of it, or as far as liquefying it? Like, I know there's so many things, organs in your body, or when you get sick, it's because they're not vibrating at the correct frequency that they're used to. So your frequency is out of balance, or your energy. And you can reset those by getting the correct, like, you don't need like go to the doctor to get that stuff fixed. So, but that's getting kind of far out there. The main purpose of going this theme was just kind of show you like vibrational energy is real, and the main thing that everyone does every day is talking. So every word that you say and speak, you're putting vibrational energy out into the world, and you're basically like creating energy for things. So when you say positive things like affirmations, or when you're writing your goals and you're reading them out loud, like those are good things that you're sending out into the universe. But the opposite is true also when you say negative things like swear words or putting yourself down or putting like other people down, like it has an opposite effect. And I'm not.
Do you think that? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, I'm not saying this like don't swear and be these things. I'm just saying to like be cognitive of what you're saying and the effects that it's actually having.
Do you think no matter what, is it the actual like words, the language, or is it like the feeling behind the words?
I think it's a combination of both, and that's why like we'll look at some of these words and the meanings that they have behind them, that you start thinking like, oh, okay, words are basically spells, right? You're casting spells every time you speak. And that's why they call it spelling. But you're spelling words, right? The Latin word or the grammar in Latin is pronounced, I'm probably going to butcher this, like grammar or grammar, something like that. I'm sure someone would put in the chat like the correct pronunciation of it, but it basically translates to magic or book of spells. So that's why when you see like, you know, movies and things like witches are, you know, saying their spells over and over again, that's literally what you're doing every time you talk, like you're casting spells, which sounds like very foofy and out there. But the point is like this is how you manifest things, and this is how you put like positive energy into your life. So.
Oh, it's almost like the word grimoire when you see the old.
Yes, you just
spelling of it
correctly. Yeah, I totally butchered it. Thanks.
GRIM, grimoire, which is a book of magic spells and invocations.
Mm-hmm. And some examples of how you can fix things in your life is like a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this too, is like someone will see something they want, or like they'll tell their kids like, oh, we can't afford that, or I can't afford that. When you say that, you're literally like putting that out there that you can't afford things. So you're constantly like living in this loop of that. Instead, like a way, and I think it was Robert Kiyosaki who said this in his Rich Dad Poor Dad book, where he said, I will tell myself, how can I afford that? Because that's different, right? Now you're putting like, I can't, it's just figuring out like, how am I going to be able to do it? So it's little slight changes like that you can do when you're talking to make like a big difference. Like something that I've been doing is like, I don't use the P word, and by P, I'll spell it out for you, like POOR. Like I never say that word. Because
I've noticed ever since you've told me that I say that word, not to describe myself, but I use it judgmentally.
Yeah, like you
or maybe
feel
to
bad
describe
for
my
someone.
past self.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so can you dig into that? Because I'm like, oh shit, maybe I should stop saying that word so much.
Because I used to do that also too, right? Like, oh, like that POOR dog or that person, like I feel bad for them or their situation that's in. Like, if what you say manifests things, like you shouldn't say words like that because no one wants to be that, right?
Yeah.
It's just like when you're saying affirmations, you want to talk about them in the like past tense as if they've already happened. Because if you're talking about like it's gonna happen, then that's the energy you're putting out. Like it's gonna. Yeah,
it's like eventually. Always gonna be like right on the horizon. Yeah, like I want this. Oh, I can't wait till I have this. Or you're always gonna be able to. Yes. You're always gonna feel that I can't wait feeling, or like I want feeling.
Exactly, and that's
a hard one.
People will tell you all the time, like when you write down your goals of things you want to do, you should have them out to where you can see them each day, and you should read them out loud to yourself like at least once a day.
I started doing that, like a gratitude stack where I'll read, I'll do like, I don't do the goals though. I should do that. But I incorporate like future gratitude, but I say it like, I'll say enough things in a row that I like believe to like get that like feeling fired up. So I'm like, thanks for my car, my fiance, my dog. And then when I start feeling really good, then I'll start like popping in like, oh, thanks for that $1,000,000. Oh man, I'm so happy I made $1,000,000. Oh my God, I'm so happy that my business is so successful. Shit that like I want and is, unfortunately used not yet tense. I don't have yet. But then you're tricking the energy. So you like get in the state and then you can like say the stuff. That's been awesome. I haven't done it for very long. It's very new, probably like the last couple of weeks. But I think that is going to be a huge benefit. Do you have any tricks like that you play with?
I think you're 100% on exactly what you're doing, because not only is it saying the things, but you also have to feel what you're saying is true or real. And one to do that is like align your emotions with it too. And if they're both like aimed at the same goal or same balance, I feel like that just helps snowball it even faster. So it'd be interesting to see, especially as we go on, if you update kind of your progress of how things are going. And as
Dude,
you're
I got to make a note on that. That's freaking awesome.
And
I didn't even think about that, dude. This is going to be such a good way for us to create like accountability, because just by nature of we're literally documenting this, it'll be like a tracking mechanism.
And
that's so sick.
It's hard to break the habits, like, because we're so used to like programmed to just saying these things over and over again. Like you don't even think about them. Like, sayings that people just commonly say all the time, like money doesn't grow on trees. Those are terrible things to keep saying like all the time, right? If you think of all the sayings that people commonly use, there's not any positive ones. They're all like negative. So the first
I'm literally trying to think of a positive saying right now, and I don't even know if I can.
Yeah. The first step is just noticing you say the things, right? Like once you can start realizing like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I say that all the time. That's the first step to then be able to correct doing it, because then as you say it, you keep catching yourself, and then eventually it's a thought, but you stop yourself before saying it, and then eventually get to the point where you're not even thinking it anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't until you mentioned the P word that I was like, oh, because now I've chosen different words, vernacular, but it's definitely hard to remove all sort of negative connotations.
Yes.
And then my challenge to that is like, I'm like, is there a way to evolve past where you can say a word that might have a negative connotation, but if you don't feel any negativity, it actually doesn't matter? Or do you think just based on the mere fact that it means something in the language that we understand, it's still going to carry like a negative energy?
I think both of what you're saying is correct, because I feel like once you get to kind of like a level of where you're just feeling good and like positive all the time, when something like that happens, negative, or somebody talks to you in a negative way, like it doesn't affect you, because you've basically like gotten to the level to where you're just not what would be the word? It's not like not manipulating you. Like what would be the other term? Influencing. It's not like
yeah. It just like bounces off.
Yeah. And when you're first starting too, like everyone has a friend or somebody they know that's like constantly complains around them all the time, right? Like pity party all day long. When you're around that person, you're like that, then you start doing that too, or just constantly being bombarded hearing that all day. Like those are not good things to have around you. Like that, is maybe something that you want to separate yourself from. But, you just pick one small thing and just go from there and keep track. And all it takes is you notice like one thing starts building traction, and then you're like, oh, okay, now I have an example. So this is making sense to me and I believe it. And then from there you start becoming more confident in it, and you start really believing. And once you have the believing and the feeling behind it, that's when you really start like seeing positive change and like, advancement, whether it's in your career or your relationships or whatever it is that you want to be like moving forward in a positive way.
What was the first What do you think a good first step is? Like, you're like really good with this. How did you like first like okay, I'm gonna get proof of concept for this for myself?
I think for me, it was like a term. The longest one I can remember ago, being from California, there was like, I don't know if people still use this, but the word hella. Like,
Hella.
yeah, like people say hella all the time. And
Oh my god.
it wasn't until I went to the army and somebody like from Boston was like, if you say that one word one more time, they'll like punch you in the face.
Did they not say like
Basically.
wicked or something weird though? Being from
Something,
Boston?
yeah, but I didn't realize like it's almost if like a valley girl saying the word like over and over again or something like that. You don't realize how often you're saying something until basically like someone mirrored it back at me. So that was kind of the first thing that I was like, I'm gonna start being conscious of saying this and to stop, even though that wasn't necessarily a negative thing. But that's the first step, and then eventually it was other things like the P word or negative phrases. And then my son's 3. Before he was born, I want to stop swearing.
Yeah, I've noticed you're pretty good with that.
The potty mouth. But when I hang out with you or like, like the guys or, have a beer or something like that, then, the swear words do come out. But around my
How are you able to compartmentalize that? Because I feel like at work, I definitely turn it off. But when I'm like just doing hangout, especially drinking, I'm like I say the F word so much.
I think you just have to be like really in the moment and like engaged about what you're doing and what you're saying. It's very easy to just kind of like go on autopilot and you're just kind of like half paying attention, and that's when your subconscious like repeating patterns and spitting the same things out.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I'm by no means like an expert in any of this. I'm just sharing the information that I've learned from other people and from reading books and stuff like that, and then stuff that I've just had as my own experiences that I feel work. So I feel like it's different for everyone. Everyone will have some specific thing that maybe might seem small to everyone else, but maybe to that person it's like a big thing that they have it they want to stop doing, and it's small, like doing that first thing and moving forward. And I know people might be like, I'm not really sure what this has to do with like business or bettering yourself, but to kind of tie it back into the main subject, with everything being vibrational energy, everything that you think and especially everything you say is creating like your circumstances around you. Have you ever had a day where you overslept, your alarm went off, like you're late getting out of bed, so you're already like, oh, I'm gonna be late to work, or rushing, and then you like stub your toe, like go in the bathroom. You're
Like
just
this day's over.
yeah, you're just like fuck, like and it just keeps snowballing and snowballing, right? Like
Yeah.
as you spill coffee on yourself, like rush into the car in the office, and your day just gets worse and worse. It's because you're like saying the stuff, and your mind says instantly negative, just negative, negative, negative. And the quickest way, which you brought up earlier, is a really good point, with your affirmations of gratitude. So anytime you get upset, it's the quickest way to kind of flip that and stop the energy that you're putting out and immediately change it is to just think of like anything that you're grateful for. And even if you have nothing, like you can be grateful to be alive, grateful to be breathing like clean air, grateful that you woke up this morning. Like, I mean, it could be anything. Grateful that, your cat is like your best friend or whatever, or, your significant other. It could be anything, like the job you have, like the food you just ate. I mean, pick whatever's important to you. So
It's crazy, like
how
looking.
do you feel like your attitude changes when you start doing that and when you're done?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. It's like just even you saying that and me thinking about how I used to really struggle with that, and I'm like, because of the practice of gratitude, there's so much to be thankful of. I have my like Amazon Echo every night say, "What are you grateful for?" And so like it's every day in the morning and the end of the day. And there's like, it's fucking beautiful out today. It's like nothing special. It's 77 degrees. And I'm looking in the condo complex here. The grass is green. I mean, like, but that's stuff that like you don't prime yourself for. So like like even looking back and when before I felt like I was like had a good life and I was successful, I had so much to be grateful for, but I wasn't priming myself to see it, to tune into it. But yeah, I mean, after I do the affirmations, it's just like I'm literally just typing and saying what I'm stream of consciousness out loud, I feel fucking awesome. Like the days I don't do it, I notice a difference. Like I'm like way more just like fired up on life. I go into my tasks with like a more open mind. And then the days I don't do it, not that I have a bad day, but you know, you definitely notice the slight difference of the days you do it, days you don't do it. Especially on a day like Mondays, I'm usually like just kind of not in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the days when you like need to do the extra stuff. Like that's when you nearly need to do it, or meditate, or go to the gym, or whatever. The things that you know will put you in that like frequency of just feeling good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I said, like prime your day, because that's very key. Like a thing you can do when you wake up in the morning before you even get out of bed or like grab your phone or anything is just try to lay there and just pick 3 things that you're grateful for. And each day try to do, you know, different things, unless there's like one specific thing that you're just like absolutely love. But, you know, you just sit there and you can think to yourself, or you can speak out loud, like, I'm thankful for this, and I'm thankful for that. And really, like, you know, you have to obviously be authentic and feel what you're saying. But you do that before you get out of bed, and your day is going to start like on a super positive note. Like you said, you're just like amped up, ready to go. And then if something negative does happen, it's just like, no big deal, right? Like it just rolls off your back and you just keep going, instead of just like letting it ruin your day and keep going. So
it's really like the prime thing, right? It's like growing up, my family's like my mom's side's all Italian. So like, I don't know if it's an Italian thing. It seems like it is. It's like humor / complaining. So it's just like poking fun and complaining about everything hilariously, which is very amusing and funny. But I was like so primed to just like look for shit that's wrong. Like, oh, that sucks. Oh, this fucking guy. But like, then you're just looking for more stuff like that. So that actually took me a long time to unprogram. And I think there's a lot of people out there with that same problem, because like I didn't watch stand-up comedy for a while, because I was like, especially like when you're in the acute phase of like trying to like reverse these habits, it's really easy to like slip back to that like dark side. So I had to like really guard my mind. Now I can watch stuff and it doesn't bother me as much. Or it doesn't bother me. Like it doesn't make me like become like a total negative Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's literally like you gotta like, it's like any skill. That's a skill I developed, finding things that are wrong and just because they're funny to make fun of / complaining. Then I had to build the be grateful, and then also build the skill of not noticing the shitty things, right? Or I guess it was more replacing that more than yeah.
What would you say were, I don't know, tips or stuff that you could share with people who have similar things? Like what helped you break that habit or unlearn that habit?
Yeah, it was like, you know, if you're trying to like quit drugs, you have to like stop hanging out with your drug friends. Like I had to like kind of cut that stuff out of my life. It wasn't really necessarily people, but I had to be more cautious of what kind of content I was ingesting. And then just I literally, if someone just goes and like sets a reminder in their phone for like every day at this time, pick, like you said, 3 things to be grateful for, then you just start. And it's not like something big. It's like something like mundane, like what today was great. And it'll be like if I'm thinking right now, like I love my 3-hole punch. I bought this like look how freaking cool this thing looks. Like that makes me happy, right? Like I'm grateful for that.
And that's
stupid shit like that. Like,
that's a perfect example.
Find.
Yes, it doesn't have to be like I'm thankful I won the lotto or some like huge thing. It can literally be like the simplest thing, and if that makes you happy and you're grateful, perfect.
And I think that the simpler the better sometimes, because yeah, I mean there's awesome stuff that happens. Of course you're gonna feel good about it, but then when you start looking at like, yeah, today was a good day, like I had a really good sandwich. It's like the lower of the things you can be grateful for, it's like it becomes like this crazy, like you just feel good all the time because you're just tuning yourself to look for shit to be grateful for.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Have you ever had a situation where you haven't like spoken to a person in a long time or anything like that, and you just randomly start thinking about them, and then all of a sudden like that day or the next day they text or call you or something like out of the blue? All the time now, yeah. So and I'm sure everyone can relate to this happening. You're just thinking about it and you manifest that person contacting you, right? Like so simple thing. And it happens so effortlessly because you're used to doing it over and over again. So you can literally train and practice. It's like any other skill, right? Like it takes time. You can replicate that with anything.
I wonder if that's something that that would be a cool experiment to like try for like a week to see if you could just think about someone and see if they text you. That'd
Yes.
be freaking cool. Why do you think that is? I feel like nothing is blocking you from believing that it's like without a question of a doubt possible that they would reach out to you. So then, why do you think that
I think on a subconscious level, like you're just so used to it. Like you think about someone, they call you, you're just like, oh, that was a coincidence, and it's like, right, like there's no block for you, no blockers, or like, oh, that's not gonna happen. But when people are like, well, I want to like manifest my dream job or my dream, significant other, then it's like all the programming and like naysayers and everything like stops you from thinking that because you think of something that's small and like no big deal to compare to something that's like humongous, monumental for people.
I think, big thing for me is like proof of concept too. Because I definitely, like, I know that creation works, like the energy kind of like magnetism or whatever. But some things are fucking, even just saying it now, I'm like, I'm like undoing it. It's like the big things that like we consider big, the universe does everything without any sort of, it's effortless, right? Like it's not like that struggles to grow grass or like move a building. But it's like when you don't have proof of concept, I struggle to get to that level where I can be like, this is going to work, even though I've never seen it work before.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why it's important to start with small things. It could be as simple as like, okay, I'm on my way to work. I'm going to hit every light green on the way today. And all it takes is like you hit one or two lights in a row green and you're like, oh, okay. And you start believing. And once you have that belief and the emotion and the energy behind it that way, it's going to happen. Like I was talking to you before, anytime I go somewhere about parking space, I'm like, I'm not even worried. Like every Saturday I take my son to the zoo. The zoo is packed. Like there's cars just circling the parking lot, like looking for spaces. And when we start getting close, I'm just like, I tell him, I say, all right, Logan, like, we're going to find a parking space, like, start manifesting a parking space. And, he's only 3, but it's like kind of a way to start putting that idea in his head.
Dude, he's going to be like a freaking like telepath.
Yes. And we'll drive and we'll pull into a row and all of a sudden a car will back out. Or someone will be walking and they'll stop at the car and start putting their stuff and I just stop and wait and 30 seconds we're in that spot. So it's like small things like that. They happen a couple times over and over to where all of a sudden you're like, I could do this all day long, like no problem, piece of cake. So
and then you're proving that.
Yeah, okay, now I want money and all these other things to come in. So they take the same amount of effort, like you said. The universe doesn't. They're like, those are both easy for me, but as humans, we put up blockers of like that is so big and like can't happen.
Yeah, it's so strange. I got to ask, what's your son's favorite animal at the zoo?
The Japanese spider crabs.
That's so specific.
They have like 3-foot long legs. I don't know if you've ever seen what a picture.
What? All right, I gotta Google
yeah,
this
they
shit.
live down at depths of like 600 or 800 feet.
Wait, how do they have them there? Do they like simulate their environment?
I think.
Oh my god, dude!
They look scary. I think the thing they're in is like pressurized to simulate like the depth.
Bro, okay, I gotta show
That's
this.
his favorite. I'm like, all right, penguins or polar bears or tigers. And he's like, nope, I love the spider crabs.
This is crazy. Look at this. Oh my god, that's so cool. You see it?
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Oh my god, look at that.
Yeah, the ones they have there aren't that
dude.
big, but yes. Can you imagine if you're just like scuba diving in the ocean and you saw one of those? It'd be so freaky.
Oh, look at that. We can like both be on cam with it. When I move the stuff around, can you see like the frames change?
No, I'm just seeing the picture.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh.
but I don't think those are like they're not good eating. Or there's like no meat in them, so that's probably why they still exist. Because I think people just eat them all, right? Can you imagine?
Dude, they live up to 100 years. 100 years. Holy shit. 42 pounds. Up to 12 and a half foot leg span, dude.
Gosh, I thought like 3 feet was the max. That's insane.
Yeah, and they're just like,
that's his baby.
just walking along. Dude, it's so ugly. Why does he like them? I used to love spiders when I was a kid. So
he really likes
like weird things they like.
Insects and bugs. Like he thinks they're really cool. So
what is that? I loved insects when I was a kid. I wanted to be an entomologist, and then I watched the dude. I wanted to be a bug scientist, and then I watched the Arachnophobia movie.
Oh my god! I was just gonna say as a joke, like then you watch Arachnophobia,
dude. Literally, and my babysitter put me to so my bedtime hit right before the scene where like John Candy goes and like kills the like main spider, and there's like a resolution. Right before that happened, so I literally spent the next almost 20 years like severely arachnophobic. Like I would be like, "Is there a spider in my chair?" Like it was bad.
After seeing that movie, I don't know how many months or whatever, like even up into adulthood, I would lift the toilet seat up before like sitting to poop to make sure there's no spiders.
That scene where the little poison one crawls in there. Yeah, dude. I checked my shoes for a while. Like, God damn it.
A lampshade on, you reach your hand up, and just like in the movie where it bites a person, it's just like,
oh.
That movie. I watched that movie as an adult, and I was like, this is so ridiculous. Like the CGI is so terrible, and it's like, but as a kid, this was scary. Like
it was so real. It's like kind of a comedy, like when you rewatch it as an adult. Yeah, it's like supposed to be stupid, but it was literally terrifying. I don't even think I could bring myself to watch it. I feel like I have to now that I said that.
I think if you watched it now, you would be fine. I don't think it would trigger anything, but
maybe that would like cure my childhood arachnophobia.
That ruined your dream of wanting to, work with insects.
I wonder. Actually, it's probably for the best because have you ever seen those like Discovery shows and there's like a guy who's like loves bugs and they're like crawling on him and he's like, this one's Christopher. Like they're just like weird dudes who like bugs.
You would definitely not really fit into that environment, and you would probably be the most jacked like bug specialist.
Just fucking like let's like oh dude, you know what are those tree bird-eating Goliath spiders? Oh my god.
Freaky.
Bird-eating spider. Oh, I can't believe I've been looking this up, dude. I'm terrified. Oh no! What are those ones that live in the like in the ground? Those huge ones.
They're like the trap door spiders, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Giant huntsmen.
And they pop out.
But they're called the trapdoor spiders. Yeah.
Like prey, and then just pull them right back into their hole.
What's so scary too? Oh no, huntsmen are those giant spiders in. They're found only in Laos. Oh, huntsmen are also in. Oh, Goliath bird-eating tarantula. I can't believe I'm looking at this right now. They're probably like one of the best like evolved creatures like ever. Like they're like just scary looking, so you don't mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like apex predators.
It's like, have you seen those videos of the people in Australia where the spiders are huge, right? It'd be like on the ceiling, they're trying to use like a Tupperware bowl to catch it, and then they go to get it, and it jumps off like onto the ground, and then they're all screaming, and I'm just like,
oh my god!
Try to catch that, like get a bat or something, like I don't mess with that stuff.
Flamethrower.
Yes.
That's when you burn your house down and just start over.
Yes.
Every time you get a spider, you have to get a new house.
Like I can't imagine living somewhere where bugs were like that, and they're just like normal to be in your house.
What's so interesting about that, and I think it's just because we're both like primed for this type of stuff. That's so normal to them, and it's almost like so that level of bug is like just a big old bug. That's just like how we do it. And my Australian accent's shit, but like same thing with like just priming yourself for like they're primed for that's just a house spider. Us, it's like oh my god, that is like a fucking monster. But then it's like if you're just priming yourself to be grateful, you're gonna look for things to be grateful for. It's like interesting how that works, like that programming. It's cool that you're like not programming, but you're kind of programming your kid to like have this type of like more evolved state of mind at such a young age because it'll be like so natural to him.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So most patterns and things that you develop are from like going through school, and then obviously people's parents or whoever raised them are like the most influential when it comes to a lot of people just repeat the same like beliefs in money is the same beliefs that your guardians had or your parents had. Like you just keep repeating the same things. So I'm grateful that like I still have ways to go, obviously, to like keep bettering myself in these categories. But being conscious and aware of this stuff now, I can prevent a lot of those things passing on to my son that were passed on to me. And not that they were like bad or done in an intentional negative way. It's just people don't know, right? Like you just say things that you're used to saying and doing, and you don't realize like the kind of magnitude and effect that they have.
It's like that, like living unintentionally, I'm going to call it. It's like you're just living. But when you have like intentional whatever, like you're intentionally improving yourself, it's cool too, because almost like you being so focused on like improving and bettering yourself, you also have like this little tiny human who is like so like spongy and interested in what you're doing. So that almost creates this accountability,
Yes.
to use a lack of a better word, because then you have to make sure that you're on your best P's and Q's or whatever, because then he's going to be like better too.
100%. And sometimes there'll be a time where I'll like say something and then it'll repeat it and I'll be like, oh no, like not even a bad word, but it'll just be like a phrase or something that's not necessarily positive. It's like a negative thing, and I'm just like, oh.
You're just like it's like a unconscious thing that you just do.
Yeah. So another thing would be like, you've heard the term, right? When there's a full moon out, like people just kind of act weird. Like people are just strange.
100%, yeah.
When it's full moon, well, it's because the energy from the moon is stronger during that time, right? Like we're all energy, everything's made of energy. So if you're getting an extreme different amount of energy you're not used to, it affects you 100%. And that's why some people, when they go into places that are very crowded, like amusement parks.
I feel that when I am in a crowded place, or when I live in the suburbs now, but when I start heading into the city, I can just feel the people.
Yeah. And if people have different energy levels, right? Like positive, negative, like the full spectrum. When you're around those people, like you can absorb those energies and same things from them, and it affects you. So one of the things is like being aware that stuff exists, and then ways that you can kind of like protect yourself from that is shielding yourself. And this, I know, sounds like kind of out there, but there was a Kevin Hart skit that I wish I would have, if I knew we were going to talk about this specific thing, I would have tried to find it, one of his stand-ups that he did. But he was like literally saying the same thing, but he's doing it in a funny way where like everyone would relate to. And he was saying like he'll be talking to one of his friends and they start spewing negativity, and he's like, I just pretend like I'm on like the doors and Star Trek where they make that noise like opening and closing, and he's like I just say shield up, and he's like I make that noise, or he's like I just make the noise, and my friends look at me like what was that, like, and he's like don't worry about it, like keep going. And he's basically saying like you just imagine like a shield or like a giant bubble surrounding you. And it only allows positive like stuff, like no negative things will get in to affect like your vibration and your energy. So
I do that. I go shield, and I imagine like a little force field going over myself, especially when I was telling you about that Seth Speaks book, and I'm like, this is like kind of really weird, and I need to like make sure I'm. And it just feeling like you've done it has like you feel safer. It's weird, but it works.
And even if
that's the thing too, I think people don't realize, like, just because it's weird or it feels weird at first doesn't mean it doesn't work. Like whether or not you believe in energy, which is all backed by science, these things are like it's gonna happen. It's like it's happening. So you might as well like be ahead of it, and like be congruent with it, and be congruent with it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you don't believe in it, what is the harm in just doing it, right? Try it for a week. See what happens. Just like with the affirmations or priming yourself, just give it a try. Try it for a week. See what happens. Like try being grateful and just see your mood change. Even if all it does is just put you in a little bit of a better mood. Seems worth it to me, right?
Yeah. I'm reading this new book, and the guy just talks about how like your ego, the whole job of your ego is to like essentially protect you, and the best way to protect you is to keep you exactly where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that this state of your life, this place, these activities that I am comfortable with, I can be safe there, right? So then when you go to like expand that, your ego wants to be like, you're not going to be able to do that. Or like, oh man, what if there's a weird person you have to talk to there? Because it wants you to stay like safe in your bubble.
Yes.
And the whole thing was like the best way to get like, he compared the ego to like the pavement. So you want to make the pavement as smooth as possible. And the only way to do that is just to feel good. If you feel good, all that ego backs off because it's like, oh, okay, I feel good. All right, everything must be good. So literally just for the sheer sake of feeling good, a lot of this stuff helps.
I like that. Yeah, I've never heard that analogy before.
It helped a lot because I was like, dude, that's like I'm like a huge like negative running narration in my head guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like, okay, if I just like look at it as like, okay, yeah, of course it wants to protect me. That's important. And then if I just feel good, it's going to be like, oh, we're safe.
So one of the ways my ego tries to protect me is, I don't know if you have this happen to you or not too, but anytime I read like a self-help book or something that's like a positive to try to change like something I'm doing, I start falling asleep. Literally.
Oh, okay.
I could have full energy, be completely fine. Like half a page in, and all of a sudden I just start dozing and nodding, and I'm like, what is going on? I cannot listen to audiobooks. I'll literally fall asleep.
Really?
That is my ego's way of like protecting me from change.
That is so interesting. How do you
put me to sleep?
How do you combat that?
Change positions.
You just pound a Red Bull before you
change positions of reading or like taking breaks. Sometimes I literally just stand while I'm reading. Or if
that is fascinating,
yeah,
dude.
like,
honestly, that's a really like intense like protective mechanism. That's kind of cool.
And I couldn't figure it out.
Unique.
And my ex would get upset sometimes because we'd be discussing concepts like this, and I would just be sitting here like, and she would take it
really?
As I don't care what she's saying, and I'm like, no, like I'm 100% interested. Like I don't know what's happening to me, and it took a while to realize like, oh, every time something like this happens, my body's just like, say goodnight, like I'm putting you to sleep.
Dude, so, that's like it's. So, I mean, obviously you're capable of doing it with, I've not even dosed or anything. Like, how did you, like, undo that? Seems like you don't have that issue, or at least right now.
Yeah, just being, like, I think conscious, right? Like, realizing what's happening in the first place. And then, I don't know, like, telling my body, like, F you, like, no, I want this. Like, this is happening. Like, we're doing this, basically.
Dude, that is so interesting.
Way, but I think your way of being smooth is probably a much easier, like less resistance.
I've tried a lot of ways. So like there was a time when I would like make bargains with my ego. I'd be like, okay, well, you one for you, one for me, or you know what I mean? Like how the movie people are like, I do one for them, one for me. And I was like, I got to figure this thing out because like my ego is like a real pain in my ass. It's got me in trouble a lot in my past. So it's like, I've tried that. I've tried to like, I've heard people refer to it as like the great trickster, or like tricks you. So you have to like be aware of it. So it's like, I think it's definitely better to be like a more copacetic, like kumbaya with your ego. And then the thing with just like feeling good, which is really why I've started to do these daily gratitude like stacks, has helped a lot. I still get like shitty self-defeating thoughts, but it's lessened enough to where it's noticeable, which is cool.
And that's a big part of it. It's like the changes don't happen overnight, but being aware is the first step, and then gradually working on it. And like you're saying, you've seen change, so then that gives you, motivation and stuff to like, this is working, I'm able to do this, and then you just keep going. It's like
Baby steps.
I used to be bad about flossing like every day.
Oh, you floss every day? Oh
Yep.
my god, you're like a hero.
And all it was just like, this is so ridiculous. Like, I'm a grown ass adult. Like, I can't. And you just make it a habit and just, when I brush my teeth the night before bed, I'm just like, gotta floss right after.
Did you use the picks or the long
Picks.
floss?
The picks are
Okay,
amazing, like so much
picks,
better.
yeah.
Yeah. Because the other ones, they like slide off your fingers and they start getting wet and pain like that. But it's just anything. And it's not like, oh, I have to change everything I do all at once. Like, you're just setting yourself up for failure when you try to do that. Just pick one thing at a time. And it could be a small thing. And then as you do that, you're also training your ego at the same time that one, you can change. Two, it's safe for you to make the changes, and your ego, it's not a scary thing. We're still safe. Like, we're not like harming ourselves. And then when you keep getting like more and more things kind of under your belt that you've been able to succeed at, you just keep snowballing. It becomes easier and easier, and you realize like, oh, this is no problem. I can do this. I did all those things. So that is
Freaking love that.
And I don't think there's any right or wrong for anybody. It's like things that are working for you are completely different than are working for me. But I think it just helps for people to hear different methods that have worked, right? And then people can try and find out what works for them. So
That's awesome. I think that's a perfect end note too. It's like you can capture